Welcome back, ladies, gents, and Pikachus, and any Quran readers who are listening and watching me today. Welcome to you too. Feel free to join me in this next episode of breaking down the Quran into easy factual sentences that you can understand, and then we're going to go through those, and we're going to try and figure out who is Allah, who is this character, what is this character Allah, what are his intentions and his purposes, what does he mean in the world going forward, and what is the effect on us unbelievers, as non-believers, in the world today. So, if you remember last time we were going through these books here, these Qurans, I was translating them, and the part we got up to was where the Israelites are leaving Egypt. They've got out of slavery, somehow they got killed, then they got revived, then they left, and on their way out across the sea, after having left Egypt, Allah is right behind them going, "Goddamn Jews!" And he's shouting at them, and he's angry that they got away, and he's saying, "Remember what happened here?" As in, remember you got tortured, and some of you got killed, and you didn't have a very good time, and you're escaping, but we're still angry with you, and we're just angry that we couldn't kill you outright. So, going on from there, we have the next verse, verse 42. "We warned you to worship only Allah, but you kept refusing to, even though without Allah's grace and mercy, you'd definitely be dead from those thunderbolts." So let me explain for those of you who didn't watch the last episode. In the last episode, what happened is the Israelites are in captivity in Egypt, and according to the Quran anyway, this is what happened. They faced the sky and they said, "We don't believe in you, God," and they faced Moses and they said, "We don't believe in you, Moses, you don't have any promises with God, and he's not real anyway. In fact, we're never going to believe anything you say unless God himself shows himself right flipping now." At which point in the Quran he does show himself, and he goes, "Bang, bang, 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 bang," and he shoots them all with lightning bolts, and they all die, including Moses, and that's them dead. And then Allah goes, "Well, I'm graceful and merciful, not like him, that evil guy that just killed you with lightning. I am going to bring you back from the dead." And he brings them all back from the dead, gives them all Christmas dinners, and then says, "You sure you don't want to have this Quran and be part of Islam? Are you absolutely sure?" And the Jews go, "No, and by the way, we don't like your lentils." It's in there, I'm telling you, 100% fact. I say this every time. If you don't believe me, buy these Qurans for yourself and read them yourself. But I'm going to save you the trouble. That's exactly what I have done, and that's why I'm going through these now. So, in keeping with that having happened, let's go back to the next verse. "We warned you to worship only Allah, but you kept refusing to, even though without Allah's grace and mercy you'd definitely be dead from those thunderbolts." So if we break that down, knowing what we know, "we" means Allah and his angels, right? And we know the person that's being spoken to is Moses and the Israelites as they make their way out of slavery in Egypt, having not been killed, or according to the Quran, having been killed, but then having been revived, and then after being revived, surviving, being released from slavery, and making their way out of Egypt into the desert. So, we warned you to worship only Allah, but you wouldn't, so they couldn't make the Jews, the Israelites, join Islam no matter what they do, even though in this tale their own God appeared in the clouds and punished them for not believing in him with thunderbolts and killed them all dead, and it was Allah that revived them. Not only did Allah revive them, he then gave them quails and fine wine. They just complained, those silly, evil, nasty, evil Jews that are self-destructive and bad. They didn't like it, and they didn't want to be part of Islam. So they left. "Even though without Allah's grace and mercy, you'd definitely be dead from those thunderbolts." So he is making a point, even though it's in a verse past. Don't forget what happened to you in Egypt. Dear Israelis, you evil, stupid Jews, don't forget what happened to you in Egypt. You got tortured, you got punished, you nearly died. The only reason you're getting out and you're not dead is because of Allah and his grace and wisdom. And the thunderbolts thing definitely happened. That's what that's what the message here is even though it sounds ridiculous, and we heard it in the last verse, and now we're hearing this verse, and this is Allah narrating to us. That's what the Quran is. Allah wrote the Quran, and he is personally narrating this to us, if this is to be believed. So even though it was in the last verse when they got killed by the thunderbolts and then they left, we're getting reminded again, they'd definitely be dead by the thunderbolts. That definitely happened. And then we go on to the next verse. 43. "Deep down you know that keeping your holy Sabbath will cause you to die in a war, a big nasty war where all the Jews will get killed." can't believe they wrote this down. I'm going to have to start again because that even shocked me. Every time I read this, I get survived. Right. I get survived. Freudian slip. I get surprised. Because I have Jewish ethnicity. Deep down, you know that keeping your holy Sabbath will cause you to die in a big nasty war. All of you. We even told you, you are filthy, despicable apes, you Jews. Apes, and we hate you. So, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence and a lot of wit to break down what they're trying to say here. What is Allah trying to say to us in this verse? Well, he's saying, deep down you know that keeping your holy Sabbath, you know, with your God who killed you with the lightning bolts, who, by the way, isn't real and will kill you if you worship, even though we failed to kill you and you've just left and you're still alive, even though all that stuff's happened, deep down in your heart you know you want to go towards Allah. You want Allah, you want to worship Allah, all that stuff doesn't matter, isn't real, you're dead if you believe it, and if you keep your holy Sabbath like a Jew, an Israeli, would do, you're bad, and not only are you bad, we're telling you as you're leaving, we're shouting towards the back of you as you're leaving your slavery, your horrible time in Egypt, as you're escaping with Moses, we are behind you and we are shouting, and this bit's in quotes. So this isn't narration, this is physically what was said by Allah and his angels, word for word, as the Israelites are leaving. They said, you filthy, despicable apes, you are apes and we hate you. Now, far be it from me to make advisory suggestions and comments towards Allah who wrote the Quran. But being as I am a boomer, well no, I'm actually Generation X, I'm right on the cusp. Being as I am a Generation X person from the modern age, maybe you might have sweetened that up a little bit, Allah, when you were writing this, and not directly said what you think of the Jews in your holy book, and quoted yourself as saying, you are filthy, despicable apes. You filthy Jews, we hate you. All of them. He's not talking to a specific person. He hasn't said, Moses, I hate you. He hasn't said, I personally hate the Jews. He said, we, Allah, his angels, and the Muslims, we hate you, filthy, despicable apes, the Jews. End quote. So I don't need to sorry. We don't need to spend too much time understanding what Allah is trying to say here, what the Muslims mean by that in their holy book, the Quran, which they 100% believe is the word of Allah, and they will chop off your head and kill you if you disagree with it, according to these books here. What he means by this is, deep down, keeping your Sabbath holy is stupid because we are going to come and fucking kill you in a war, all of you, at the same time. And by the way, once you've caused that war and died, we're going to remember you like this. Fully despicable apes, filthy, stupid, evil Jews who deserved what they got and got killed. Got completely, every single one of them. That's what they're telling you here. Like I say, if I'd have wrote it, maybe I would have used a little bit of less angry, war-killing, genocidal language. Maybe I would have been nice. But I'm not Allah, Allah's not me, I didn't write this, Allah did, according to these. So let's carry on. 45. No, I've missed one. 44. Sorry, I'm so surprised at that. Even though I've read it a million times, I'm still surprised by how psychotic the language is from Allah in the Quran. But anyway, let's carry on. 44. After you leave, we'll make an example of you, filthy apes. See, he says again, filthy apes. After you leave, we'll make an example of you, filthy apes, to all good Muslims, so that they learn of what happens to all who do not fear Allah and follow these commands. So, breaking that down, after you leave Egypt with Moses, because we failed to kill you all, even though we really wanted to, that's the message here that's between the lines. After you leave, we'll make an example of you, filthy apes. Like, they're pissed off. The Israelis weren't killed. They're not even slaves. They're actually in full health, and they've just left with their prophet Moses. And they're just about to do a holy sacrifice to their God for saving them. This is all visible to Allah and his angels and the Muslims that just missed on the opportunity to kill them. They're watching the Israelites walk away with Moses, happy as Larry. They're going to go off and set up Israel in a minute. And they're so pissed off, they're saying, after you leave, We're going to make an example of you, you filthy bastards. That's what this means. And what that example is they're going to write a book to say, those fuckers, they got away and I hate them and I want them dead and I'm going to try and kill them in future. It's going to be a big war. I'm going to kill them all. Rawr! Psychotic language. That is what this is. We're going to make an example of you filthy apes to all the good Muslims so that they learn of what happens to all who do not fear Allah and follow his commands. So not only is this, we hate the Jews and we want them dead in future, we're going to come and have a war and kill them after they've set up Israel. We're going to go there and kill them. It doesn't only mean that. It means we're going to make an example to all the Muslims as well. So now we've finished hating on the Jews and going, we're going to kill them, those guys over there, we're going to go there. When they've set up their Israel, we're going to go and fucking murder the lot of them. We finished that. Now we're turning back round to the Muslims. Allah and his angels are now talking to the Muslims and saying, this is an example to you of what happens to people who do not fear Allah and follow his commands. So not only are we going to kill them over there, those horrible, hateful, evil, stupid, self-destructive Jews that we hate, we're going to go and murder all those in the future when we're big enough and strong enough. We're going to murder a lot of them and kill them all. Genocide. That's what this means. After that, this is going to be an example to you to do exactly what I tell you and be scared of me, who is Allah, in the book. That's what that means. If you don't believe me, go and buy these. You'll have to translate this one, which is in Arabic, but most of it's in here in this green one. Go and buy those, translate it, and you will know every single word I'm telling you is 100% the truth. I swear to God, and I would never swear to my God, who I trust and love, my compassionate, lovely, caring God, who is Yah. I would never swear to God if this wasn't the truth and there was anything in there that was wrong. So I'm guaranteeing you, if you buy these, this is what you'll find. I'm telling you now. I'll carry on. Remember, Allah directed your prophet Moses, who you did disobey. When you did, he called out and said, Allah, save me from these goddamn moron idiots. Save me from these stupid hypocrites. Right, this one's slightly less psychotic, but still weird. So what's happening? After the Jews have left, the Israelites are out. They've gone. We've said, we're going to kill you later, by the way. And then we've turned around to the Muslims and said, don't ever forget those guys. You have to kill them. And if you don't, you're dead. That's Allah talking to the Muslims. So after that, now Allah is back in the book narrating himself talking. So he's not quoting himself. He's saying this is what Allah says. Allah is saying this is what Allah says to the reader. And he says, remember. So we're going back in time, forward in time. Now he knows you're not there. He's speaking to you in the future in the book. So he's saying, remember, Allah, him, directed the prophet Moses, who you did disobey. So he thinks Jews are reading this. Allah directed your prophet Moses, who you did disobey. When you disobeyed him, he called out, Allah, save me from these morons. Right? So again, they're reimpulsing. Moses is a Muslim. Allah is the one directing Moses, even though he has just saved the Israelites and escaped Egypt with the Israelites, despite the fact that Egypt wanted to enslave them and then kill them. They are not slaves and they are alive and they've got away from Egypt completely unharmed without doing any fighting. They didn't need to draw a single sword because of Moses and the covenant, right? But what Allah is telling you here is don't forget, Allah was actually controlling Moses to save you. Allah is actually a Muslim, even though he has just led the evil, nasty, hypocritical, self-destructive enemy of the Muslim people, the Israelites, out of your country to freedom to set up Israel in about 10 minutes time. Moses has led them there to set up Israel, but anyway, he's actually under the control of Allah. He's actually a prophet of Allah. We're just, tricking them. That's what that says. So we're supposed to believe that Moses is actually a Muslim. He's a spy. He's like Bond. Moses Bond 009, 00 whatever the Jewish 9 is. So that's what we're supposed to believe here. Allah's controlling Moses. He's not really Israeli. He doesn't really believe in the God with the lightning bolts or any of that stuff. He's actually just working for Allah on the sly. If you believe these. I'll continue. 46. The Israelites begged for instruction in the desert for how to correctly make the sacrifice to Allah and know which cow is the correct cow to call a holy cow. Obviously, this is my narration of what's in the book. It doesn't actually say that in the book, in those words. It says these things exactly as I'm telling you them, but I've prettied up the words so that they're a little bit more interesting for you to hear. So what does this mean? The Israelites begged for instruction in the desert how to correctly make their sacrifice to Allah. So let me get this straight. They've escaped Allah and his angels and Egypt, who wanted to enslave them and kill them and were constantly trying to deceive them and lie to them to get them to bow to Allah. And on the way out, they were shouted at and abused as they escaped with Moses. Now they're going to make a sacrifice to their God, who helped them out via Moses. But even though they're doing that, they're going to ask Allah, how do we make a sacrifice to our God? Allah, please tell us. That's explicitly what it says. Sound legit? Not very. But anyway, let's carry on. Oh yeah, now the next two, 47 and 48, I've combined because it's basically the same thing in both verses. The only difference is the first verse represents one bit of the description and the second bit represents the last bit of the description. And the thing that we are describing is Allah telling the Israelites who have just escaped how to make their sacrifice to their God. It's in there. It's what it says. I'm telling you, 100% it's in there. Buy it and read it if you don't believe me. So, 47 and 48. Allah mercifully tells them, despite their hypocrisy and their evil, the correct way to make a holy cow for a sacrifice, and the correct way to make a holy cow for a sacrifice is a middling-aged, pure fawn-coloured cow, not too old, not too young, not too spotty, not too stripy, not too a funny colour. It's got to be a nice fawn colour. And the cow has to be admired by its master. So everyone has to agree, that's a very sexy looking cow. Pretty cow, that one. That's the one we're going to use. That's exactly what it says in there. A pretty cow admired by its master. Right? 49. They still just didn't get it right though. Allah gives even more detail and finally says, look, get one which has never seen the field, never seen the plough, never seen a drought, never seen famine, has never been worked in the water, has never been worked in the field, and is a very pretty cow without blemish. And eventually they do. So, sorry. What happens here is, because the Israelites are now free and they want to do this sacrifice to their God to say, thanks God for letting us get away from that horrific situation we were in, being enslaved by a big horrible race of people who hate us and want to kill us, even though they were trying to kill us. Even on the way out they were saying they were going to kill us in future, they just wish they could do it now. So we're doing a sacrifice to you, God, for saving us. How do we do the sacrifice? Oh, let's ask the other God who wanted to kill us and the people who were trying to trick us. Let's ask him. So they ask him. And he says, you bloody dumb, stupid Israelis, you haven't got a clue about anything, have you? The last time you ate the sacrifice, this time you don't know how to make a proper sacrifice. But I'm kind and merciful and generous and lovely and likeable. That's what you're supposed to think. I'm lovely. So anyway, even though I tried to kill you and you got away and I was pissed off and I shouted at your back, I'm going to kill you in future, all of you. Even though you did that and I did that and you left, here is how to make a sacrificial cow. What you do is you pick a middle-aged cow, not an old one, not a young one, a middle-aged cow, a fawn-coloured one, which means the same colour all over, a nice kind of olivey colour, not too brown, not too white, not spotty, not blemished, not a cow that's ever been worked, not a cow that's got any blemishes, a facially attractive, pretty cow that is admired by his master. That is the correct cow to use. Got it, Israelites, you bloody idiots? That's how this comes across in the language. Okay. So eventually they actually did get there in the end, right? They buggered it up and then they had to ask Allah, and then Allah told them and they were like, we still don't get it. So he told them again and they still didn't get it. So they said, look, Allah, can you just be a little bit more direct? So Allah was like, God damn, Israelites, listen, you stupid morons, bloody listen to what I'm saying. Get a cow, make sure it isn't old or too young, it's got to be a middle cow. Make sure it is a pretty cow. Make sure it has a nice colour all over. That it hasn't got funny legs or weird dented hooves. Because it hasn't been worked in the past. It's got to be a pretty cow. Do you understand? Yeah? That's how it comes across, right? Allah is not looking on these people favorably, even though he says he's helping them out because they're too stupid. That's in the language. He is actually helping them out despite their complete stupidity, their complete inadequacy to make this sacrifice to their God, who isn't Allah. And even though Allah wanted them to do the sacrifice to them and worship him, and said, I'll kill anyone who doesn't earlier in the book, and actually did offer to kill them in Egypt, but couldn't because of Moses and God. And when they got across, he said, we're going to kill you later in a big war when we can, after you set up Israel. Even despite that, now we're supposed to believe he's a lovely guy, and he's really helping them out because they are so thick and hypocritical and evil and bloody useless at everything. They can't even get the simple task right of slaughtering one cow for sacrifice, so he's got to take them through it like a little baby. You do this, then you do that, and you do this, and then you do this with your holy cow, and then it's a good cow, yeah? That's how it comes across. Oh, that's it. So we've reached the end of our 8 passage reading. So let's go through it. You get the general idea by now. We've gone through, I think, 71 verses of the Quran in great detail, line by line, and what we've learnt so far is this. Allah deceives because he claimed at the beginning, I am the only God, I created everything, you should all follow me, if you don't you'll die, definitely 100%, and you'll burn. That turned out not to be the case. He comes upon Adam, the first ever man, Adam and Eve, Adam. He comes upon Adam and he says, Adam, tst, come over here. Surrounds him with his angels and goes, you're bloody stupid, Adam. You need to learn these secrets and then I won't pick on you and I'll let you go. And Adam's naive because he's only been alive 5 minutes. He goes, oh, okay, teach me the secrets so I can be equal to you and above the angels and then I can go on my way, please. So he gets taught the secrets. Not good enough to teach him the secrets. Allah then approaches the rest of the angels of Eden with Adam there and goes, see my new mate Adam that's all smart and wise now because he knows all these secrets. Everyone has to bow down and worship Adam. Adam's the leader of Eden now. Bow down, and tries to dominate the other angels. And they're all terrified because obviously Allah is quite scary and now he's got a friend, Adam, who is up himself now because he's learned all these weird hidden secrets, so he's unstable at the moment. So all the angels are scared and they're like, bow down, bow down, bow down, but one doesn't. Ibis, or Iblis, he's the angel that doesn't. He goes to earth and he's like, I'm not up for this, I'm not worshipping you. So even though Allah says anyone who refuses to worship him will die, he doesn't manage to kill Iblis. Iblis just walks off. So the first thing we know, Allah deceives, tells a lot of lies, and doesn't follow through with his promises. He tricks Adam. They both fall from heaven, Eden. God kicks them both out, Allah as well, and says, get out. You can't come back. They drop to earth. Even though he has promised Adam, Adam, you will be wise, beauty, and truth, and graceful. You'll be the king of Eden. 5 minutes later, they're both on the earth, kicked out of heaven, and now Allah changes his tone and he says, no, you can't be the king of Eden anymore. Now you're one of the little people. You matter nothing. You have to worship me. You have to make everyone you meet worship me. You will never get any worship for doing all this work. Everyone you meet has to worship me directly, not through you, me. And if you don't, I'll kill you and you'll burn forever. Then we find out that Allah actually knows there's other people on earth because he addresses, O children of Israel. Then we go through the whole bit about the children of Israel being evil and nasty and bad and hypocritical and self-destructive and stupid. Right up to the point where they're enslaved within Egypt, and they're enslaved because they refuse to worship Allah. So they won't let them go until they do. So they keep them in enslaved conditions and they keep offering them the Quran and they keep saying no. Moses turns up. Allah claims Moses as his own. Moses manages to negotiate the release of the Israelites, but in the Quran that's not what happens. What happens in the Quran is they turn to the sky and say, God, we don't believe you. Moses, we don't believe in you. We won't believe in any of this rubbish to do with God and Moses. We don't believe it at all unless God appears to us right now and proves it. In the Quran, this is what happens. God appears and goes and shoots them all with thunderbolts and they all die. Allah, in his grace and mercy, revives them all so they're all perfect bodied again and they're no longer slaves. And then he feeds them quails and wine like a little Christmas dinner and says, are you sure you don't want these Qurans? Are you sure you don't want to be Muslims now? And for some reason, the Israelis are like, nah, we're going to keep going if that's all right with you. We're off now. By the way, your lentils are pretty terrible. Your lentils are bad. That's what it says. So after that happens, they escape from Egypt. They're walking away with Moses and to their back, Allah goes, I want to kill you guys, I fucking hate you, and by the way, I'm going to come and kill you in future in a big war, you're all going to die, you're all going to get wiped out, just remember that. Then we get the bit about them in the desert. They need to make a sacrifice to their god, but they're too stupid to manage it, so what do? They ask Allah, Allah, please tell us how to make a sacrifice to our god over here, because we don't know, so we're going to ask you rather than our own god. And he eventually tells them, but he tells them in a very derisory way, and he's scratching his head going, are these people even intelligent enough to do this? They are very stupid and I hate them. That is the point of this. So, I think we're getting to our conclusion now about what this Allah character is really like in his own words. Remember, none of this is speculation. None of this is guesswork or additional stuff that I'm putting in there. This is 100% Quranic scripture. In fact, I would go as far as saying, those of you who have kept up with this series and watched it through and through every single episode and kept up with what I've been saying, we have now read more of the Quran than 99% of Muslims that you will meet. We understand more about Allah than 99% of Muslims that you will meet. So what happens after that? What happens after they go into the desert just before they set up Israel? They make their sacrifice to their God. They manage it eventually, even though they're stupid, only because Allah helped them. What happens next? Well, you will have to wait until tomorrow to find that out. And that's the end of this video. So in conclusion, we know Allah deceives and is not the only God. The other God is the one that throws the lightning bolts. Presumably that's the same one that hid the secrets at the start. Allah claims he kills everybody who doesn't want to bow to him and worship, but he actually lies because Iblis gets away. He doesn't kill him. The Israelites were in Egypt enslaved. They got away. They didn't get killed. They're still alive today. So that's the second time we've seen Allah lie. And the third thing we know is even though the Israelites have safely passed out of Egypt and they're now about to set up Israel on their own in the desert with Moses and God there, and they've got water coming out of rocks because Moses knows the little stick trick that Allah apparently taught him. Even though that's all happening, the very last thing that happens to them before they leave, Allah is shouting at their back personally, saying, you are filthy, disgusting apes, you Jews, and I will kill every single one of you in future. Never forget this. So that's where we're going to leave this episode. So like I say, if you do not believe anything I've said, or there's any doubt in your mind, you can check it yourself. All you need to do is buy one of these and translate it to get the extra bits that have been cut out of this one, which you can use. 98% of it's in here, and this is translated for you. Quran 1, Quran 2. Despite the fact that there only is one Quran, it's universal. It says so in this one. So this one, saying there's only one universal Quran in the front of it as well, contradicts this. And that's what we're finding out, is that it's a very, very contradictory work of fiction, which is apparently written by Allah himself. But as we can see, he tells a lot of lies and does a lot of deceit. And I personally think at this stage we have enough factual basis to say we don't trust this guy. That's the end of this video. So see you tomorrow when I record the next version of Let's Look at the Quran, break it down and learn about what's in there. Until then, have a good evening, good night, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Don't miss tomorrow's episode. I'm telling you, it's the juicy stuff. We're getting to the good stuff now, so if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure you tune in tomorrow. For now, Godspeed, good night, and I'll see you next time. Bye.